Hey, happy Friday, happy Friday. Oh my gosh, November 17th, Andrew.
Ah, guys, sorry we took a little bit of a break here, but
Yeah.
it's things got pretty rapid towards the end of the spring season there. So now we're into the fall, almost the winter time. So,
Yeah.
really good to be back and yeah, good to see everybody again or talk to everyone again. I guess be seen,
Right.
good to be seen by
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, Thanksgiving next week, and then
mhm,
where we're doing our annual pies this weekend, I know.
yeah.
And then the following weekend, we've got Santa at our office. I know you're pretty excited about that.
I am. That was a really fun time. We had it a few years ago, and we kind of taken a break, starting about COVID, just with obviously gatherings kind of went away, and now we're
Yeah.
finally back here. So I'm really excited. It was a ton of fun in the past. So, come one, come all. If you have a winter agent that you work with, please reach out to them and let them know you want to join up. Or if you don't, feel free to reach out to Michael or myself. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's a ton of fun. Santa's really cool. He does a lot of really great games and makes a big presentation for the kiddos and yeah, and we try to make it fun for the adults too. There'll be some snacks, some beverages, so it'll be a little regular winter wonderland, hopefully. So it should be a good time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And thank you for spearheading that for us.
Yeah, and then a
Um,
big Jerry too. She stepped up big time to help make it happen for sure. So,
yes,
uh,
absolutely. Well, let's see here. Probably tell by the title. We had some interesting news 3 weeks ago.
mhm.
For those that don't know, there's been a ongoing litigation for about 4.5 years between some homeowner class action lawsuit centered in the Midwest in Missouri against a number of companies, a number of large brand real estate companies, as well as the National Association of Realtors, which is we call that NAR, NAR. Um, there was a verdict, that came down, a significant verdict, like $1.8 billion, which could swell in treble damages in the $5 billion range. Um, right after that, there was class action two. It was filed in Illinois. Then there was a third one, I believe. It launched out of North Carolina, I believe, but that's also a nationwide class action, and that includes a 5 or 6 additional large national franchises, right? That are actually named, in those suits. So, um, I think over the last 4.5 years, I think most of us, probably in the business, we thought, oh my gosh, I mean, this in our minds, this just doesn't make any sense, and it's not how we do business. And clearly on the 31st, when that verdict came down, 31st of October, um, there's number of states that do not have buyer agency agreements and that type of transparency. Colorado is one of them. I'm going on starting year 16, and I've always had a buyer agency agreement. It's always been a requirement. It's actually a requirement in our brokerage as well. We explain very well to our buyers exactly how we're paid and how we're compensated. But the nuts and the bolts of it are there's a group that's filed a class action suit and claiming that there was collusion or coercion between the real estate brokerages and the MLSs, and more of a forced kind of compensation environment. And some of those home sellers have said, well, I've selected my agent, I didn't select the buyer's agent, and we have our fiduciary and I'll pay you, but why should I be paying them? And they're fighting against me for the next 45 days, things like that, right? um, and there's some dialogue around that. That's number one, but number two is it's also about transparency and about explaining how we're all compensated in our industry and how it's handled, right? So just to kind of walk through those who maybe don't know, or if you're brand new in real estate, traditionally there will be a compensation number or percentage, whatever that number or percentage is, that the listing agent will work with his or her client on, and then that is called a co-op or cooperative compensation, which is in our MLS system. And that normally is split, some sort of split. Sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes it's not. But generally speaking, whatever that number is a shared compensation
Mhm.
that is deducted from the seller's proceeds at closing. However, it's wrapped into the price of the property or the package, which is essentially paid for coming from the buyer, right? In
Mhm.
theory, it does come out of the seller side.
Right.
So there is an expense there, right? So and historically, how that's happened is the property was offered for sale. There was an enticement, right, to pay the other agent or the buyer's agent to bring a buyer to the transaction, right, that's out there, to a marketable home, marketable property, done through the multiple listing service, which we call MLS. There are a number of MLSs that are owned through the National Association of Realtors, through the state board, to the local board, and then the MLS. So an example of that in Colorado would be Colorado Springs. That would be the closest example to us. In the Denver market, we are members of NAR as realtors. We are members of the local boards, which we have 3 in the Denver market, but our MLS is a private company, right? So most of this is centered around those that start at the top through the National Association. And there was an impression that it was forced the hand to market and advertise a property and offer a dollar amount or percentage, whatever was appropriate in that market. That is absolutely not the case. It is negotiable. Sometimes where you begin is not where you end. We experienced that with private party. We experienced that with for sale by owners. We experienced that with real estate owned or REO properties. We experience it sometimes in the new home building side, from a home builder direct sometimes. And in some cases, the buyer's compensation is significantly higher as an enticement, right? Sometimes it depends on a buyer. Is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? Real estate markets cycle, right? So all things being that, this is 4.5 years. It all came to a 3-week trial, happened to be in Kansas City is where the trial happened to be. And unfortunately, the verdict did not go in a way that I think most of us felt it probably should have gone, right? Lots of misinformation, lots of miscommunication. In my opinion, for the most part, the big national media has got it wrong. I think they've stereotyped us. I think they've categorized us as doing something wrong or bad people or whatever the case may be. And so that case is now on appeal, which could take years. There's talk I read today, today's the 15th of November, of putting in an injunction at this point and holding everything for right the moment until we can get through the appeal process, which could be years, or it could happen quickly. We don't know. All of that being said, in our minds, and we'll talk specifically to Colorado. Those, if you're listening or watching, you know that we have a number of agents, not only in our market, in our office, and in our company, that are licensed in multiple states, right? But in Colorado, for the purposes of this, we have had buyer agency for decades. And it's really tight. It's really clear. There's options. There's boxes that one would check. Now, an agent needs to explain that to his or her client. But in my opinion, we move forward, and we move forward in a way of tightening up our business practices a little bit, right? And making sure that we're explaining appropriately. The other piece is now there's going to be visibility from the consumer where he or she is now going to see compensation for the listing and the buyer. And they're going to see that publicly, right? And so realtors will see that, as well. So it's going to give some more transparency. So if there's an agent that, for example, there are some brokerage models where it's discount or flat fee or low fee or something. There's some that are absolute full service, and there's some that are ultra full service, right? That have higher cost to them, right? There's numerous business models, if you will. We're going to see that now publicly. We're going to be able to have dialogue about that. And then we will be able to negotiate that as appropriate in the best interest of the parties, right? So on some level, how it's always been, right? We don't know what tomorrow brings or what Monday brings, but we are seeing some things out there already by certain maybe brokerages or certain companies that we have to be aware of what's there and make sure that we secure that not only the home and be a fiduciary for our buyer, but also our income and our compensation, whatever the number is or percentage is. But also the big aha to me was, since I've been in the industry, we focus all of our energy and attention on marketing and listings and signage and logos and open out, all the things for listings, right? Well, the reality is, at the end of the day, the buyer's the one with the money. The buyer's the one that's got to close on the transaction, regardless of price or location, right? So I believe that there's going to be an industry shift to really demonstrate our value as a buyer's agent and our fiduciary and all the things that we do for our client base to get one into a home. First home, second home, third home, whatever the case may be. That's my initial, we got to step up our game on that buy side, earning our value, earning our, right? If that makes sense. So that's kind of the big picture, 30,000 foot view. What are kind of your thoughts on it? And did I miss anything here?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of differences, I suppose, of opinion. Again, and I tend to avoid, was it a good decision? Was it a bad decision? Was it this, that, and the other? Like at the end of the day, a jury got together and made a decision, and that will be appealed. And then at some point, a judge or two or three, depending how far the appeal goes, will stamp it or say, no, they got it wrong, right? But I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. Try as I might, no one lets me make all the rules for the city of Denver or the state of Colorado. So all I can do is control what I can control and do the best job I can. Right. So I'll say it to my blue in my face, and I've said it about this situation. I'll say about other situations. If you do the right thing all the time, you can't really get a lot of blowback. Right. So agents out there, buyers agents, sellers agents, whatever the case is, please, please, please. Especially in Colorado, it should be a given, but I'm sure there's people who do the paperwork wrong, then they should be a corrective. But talk to your clients, explain the buyers or listing exclusivity agreement with them as appropriate, whichever one you're going on, and understand that they are your client. Like your duty is to them, right? Your duty is not to the transaction. Your duty is not to get this deal to closing. That's part of the process, sure, as long as that's in line with your client's goals. But there could be a situation where your client says, hey, I want out. I can't buy this house. And it could be past all your successful extractions. They're okay with leaving their earnest money on the table. And your duty is to go tell the other side, like, hey, man, I'm sorry, we're out, right? Your duty is to your client, not the transaction. Now, we do have a higher duty to the public. And so that, but overall, we work for our client. And you need to, as a buyer's or a listing agent, articulate your value to them and explain what the commission that you are going to be charging is and what, and how you expect to get paid, right? And consenting adults should be able to have that conversation. And a client might say like, hey, that's too much money for me. I don't want to pay that much. And you as an agent can say like, hey, you know what? Does this number work? Or, hey, that's my bottom line. I'm sorry. I don't think our business relationship's going to work out. If you guys both want to work together, awesome. If one or neither of you want to work together, that's fine too. And I tend to not get into the, like, I don't know, 3D chess of like, is that going to cause, overall commissions to go down? Is it going to cause them to go up? Are they going to stay the same? I don't know, man. I know what I'm willing to work for and what I'm willing to do for my commission, and if I'm going to give you the level of effort and loyalty and fiduciary responsibility that I give to all my clients, be them buyers or sellers, I know what my time is worth and what I'm willing to charge. And if it gets to a situation where those numbers that I'm able to secure are less than what I'm able to charge, then it's time for me to get out of the industry, and do something else with my time and my talents, right? As it stands right now, explain thoroughly what you're going to do, explain thoroughly the buyer's or seller's agency agreement as appropriate. And if you're able to get them to sign it, we're in business, man. And you need to be able to understand, like, hey, again, everyone's going to do business their own way, but there are 3 boxes we can check in our buyer's agency agreement in Colorado. It's section 7, and there's 7.1.1 through 7.1.3. And they say respectively, essentially, like, hey, the seller may pay me, but you're obligated to pay me. You're going to pay me no matter what, or the seller may pay me, but you're not obligated to pay me.
Yep.
And, and it's sometimes, and I've done it when I was a newer agent. I didn't totally understand the process or understand my value. I used to check that 3rd box just to make everyone feel comfortable, and just assume that I would get paid on the other side, but it wasn't always true. Like in Colorado, there have been variable commissions for a very long time, right? Some homes do pay 3%. Some homes pay 2.8%. Some pay 2%. Some pay a flat XYZ dollar, right? For those of us who work on the rental side, it's very, very common to see $0 for a cooperating broker on the rental side, right? So it's always been able to be negotiated. And if you have that 3rd box checked and the commission is not what you expect, you're stuck, man. Like you promise your client to do your best job and write it on whatever house they delivered, right? And they delivered that house, right? The same thing if they wanted to go buy, if they went and knocked on someone's door and said, I want to buy that house from a for sale by owner, and that owner is not going to pay you, you're still obligated to help them out. You said you would,
Right.
if you check the box, then you can negotiate, right? And you can tell, and you have to tell your client, like, hey, man, you want to rent off from this house. Their commission is XYZ, and we agree to ABC. There's a delta there. I'm going to go do my best to secure this, but there's a world where you have to make up the difference, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer. Is that okay with you? Do you want to proceed? And they will say yes or no. And then you go do the appropriate answer. You know what I mean? There's not really a lot of ways around it, guys. And whether or not that's how we thought of it, that's how it should be done. And that's honestly how it should have been done, at least in Colorado. And I don't know, but in general, most states that do have a buyer's agency agreement, for the entire time that document's been in existence, right? So that's the whole thing. And now, are we starting to see a couple things? Now, was the buyer's agency commission always public? No, right? But now it is, right? And if you pull up any home listed in Colorado on Zillow or Redfin or any public facing site, you can see what the buyer's agency commission being offered is now. And again, that's being offered. It's not signed and sealed until we're under contract. So it's always negotiable for all parties. So just keep that in mind, guys. Again, if you do the right thing, articulate your value to your clients, explain what the contract means, fill out the contract to a way that you feel comfortable and you and your client negotiate to feel comfortable, and get it executed. If you can't get comfortable, then you each need to go move on to a different person. They need to find a different agent that's going to work with them on their terms. You need to go find a different buyer in this example. It's going to agree and work on you with your terms.
Right.
I honestly don't understand why there's such a conflict there. It seems logical to me. And again, not getting into whether the jury got it right or wrong, or whether the arguments were, disingenuous or not. That's all over my head, man. I didn't.
Right.
My grandpa didn't pay for law school. You know what I mean? Like I know
Right.
my job, so I'm just going to continue to try to do it well and as I can.
You bring up a really good point, because when you look across the national headlines and the national news, and you can pick your source, it's out there, right? But it's like, real estate's over, no more real estate commissions. The house prices are going to drop by 6%, and all this stuff, right? And I don't see any of that being true. I also think that the majority of people, there's 1.6 million realtors in the country, and there's about another million that are non-realtor. So they would be a licensee, or they carry a license, but they're not a member of the association. So I don't see 1.6 million realtors out there across the nation just all of a sudden just saying, I got mine, you're on your own. I don't see that. I see a cooperative environment of bringing a buyer and a seller together in a successful transaction that's mutually beneficial for everybody, right? Well, I really do.
And I do think there be some situations where it's variable to a certain extent, right? Like to your point made a few minutes ago, like, sometimes it's a really buyer friendly market, sometimes it's really seller friendly market, sometimes it's a little more balanced, right? And if I'm going to make it up for a second, but let's say it's a tough market for sellers out there and they need to entice buyers in. Well, way to entice them to say, like, hey, I'll pay your agent's fees. You know what I'm saying? If it's really seller friendly, maybe the buyer shoulders that to make their offer more attractive than a different person's offer. You know what I mean? Right. So everyone's in here to our job as realtors is to guide our clients to the most direct path to success for them that's going to meet their goals. And yeah, man, it's
right.
It is what it is, man. And I think I believe there will be solutions in place, or if needed, ones created to ensure that buyers and sellers can both have an advocate regardless of their income level, because that is again, not trying to get into potentialities, but if the scary thing for me is if there becomes a situation where a person who's buying her first time home buyer, or a person who's buying that doesn't have maybe using down payment assistance or doesn't have as much liquidity, can't afford to have an advocate on their side that's looking out for them. That's, I think, the nightmare scenario in my mind, right? Like, so I don't think that as an industry or society we're going to allow that to happen. We're going to find a solution that says anybody that wants to buy a house can have an advocate, and we'll figure out what the dollars and cents look like, of course, and could that shift? Sure, but I mean, could buyers be more valuable at some point?
So I got licensed in the fall of 06. And October of '08, the financial collapse just hit. I mean, it was a mess, right? As we all know, right?
Mhm.
And so plowing through that, like, for example, there was like 14,000 homes or 22,000 homes on the market at any given time. It was 100% a buyer's market. And it didn't matter if it was a short sale foreclosure, if it was in pristine condition, or if it was trashed. It didn't matter, right? Because the buyers had 40, 50, 100 homes to go look at, right? And so we had scenarios where there were some that were, I would call non-distressed, right? So
Mhm.
typical seller selling to move. They were going to move up, they were going to move down, they're going to move out of state, whatever. Where they actually entice and were paying 5%, or 6% on the buy side, and they were paying a big number to entice to do that. Now, that also brings a whole nother set of issues, right? Because, will there be those people that go like this to those? Yeah, maybe. My take was always this: it doesn't matter what the comp is in there. The bottom line is we have our agreement, right, with our client, right? We will show you the properties that you want to look at, whether you found them on Realtor.com or on Homes or Zillow or Trulia, all the ones you mentioned, Redfin. I don't really care where you found it. I don't care if you're driving around on Sunday and you found it. It doesn't really matter to me. The bottom line is we need to get into it and figure out the best path to success for you based on their situation, right? Because there are some that, like, for example, you're going to have a savvy seller that's going to see right through this and go, we need to pay that buyer's agent more to entice them. Okay. Then there's going to be, on the other side, there's going to be that savvy buyer who maybe they own a ton of income properties, and they say, submit the offer, zero compensation, I'll pay you, right?
Right.
I want to make my offer look better to the seller, right? Because in their mind, they're going to pay it anyway. They're going to pay it through the price. We'll just take it out of the offer, and we will just pay you through closing, through title. We'll pay you the way you need to do it. But to the seller, it's more enticing, right? So the savvy networked seller, investor, buyer may do that just to get in the door quicker and faster. So as realtors, I go back to, this is our value, right? And we need to really understand where our clients are, what their means are, what makes the most sense.
Mhm.
However, go back to VA, right? I've got VA members in my family, right? They can't federally, they cannot pay $1 towards comp and other fees. They can't, right?
And most
So,
homes, you know.
and those men and women need to be cared for, and they need to get into home ownership, not only sacrificing their lives for service, but at the same time, in my opinion, they've earned that, right? So there's
100%.
going to be scenarios where we're going to have to navigate through this, and you don't want to get a scenario where you're juicing or jacking a price necessarily just to get paid. That doesn't feel good either, right? So we're in a weird space right now because we got a public verdict. We got 2 more cases right behind it.
Mhm.
There's no real ruling. There's no real massive direction. So like you, I default back to what we have. And what we have is an amazing buyer agency agreement, and we have a really good contract to buy and sell that
Mhm.
really does protect our clients, right? It's our role to really understand that and navigate that for them to earn that income, right? That's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I agree, man. I'm not gonna get into, as as an individual agent or as a managing broker on our team, into like this argument in my head about what externality or what situation may or may not pop up. It just doesn't, like, oh, will every house in the MLS have 0% buyer's agency commission? Probably not. Like, is it possible? Sure, but it's no less possible today than it was 5 weeks ago. Like, that was always an option. You know what I mean? Like, if our argument was buyers didn't or sellers didn't do that way because they didn't know, well, then yeah, shame on us. They did know, because we explained to them that this is commissions variable and how it gets split, right? It's very clear on our sellers agency agreement. It's not nebulous. It says, I'm charging you XYZ percentage, of which ABC is going to the buyer's agent, right? So it's very clear, extremely clear. So it's no more possible today than it was 6 weeks ago, a year ago, whatever it is. We should be able to talk through this conversation, right? And will things adjust on occasion? Sure, but that happens now. Like, I can go through, if I pulled up 10 MLS listings, I'm probably going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 8 different competency offerings. It is what it is, guys. So just don't,
Yep.
if you're going to get caught up in the negativity and the what if and the this,
Right.
that, and the other,
Right.
I don't know, man. Our industry is going to change. Our contract changes every year. We're very
Yeah.
fortunate to have Scott and the cats over there at the car legal team to be able to walk us through it and let us
Right.
know what our best practices are. So I'm really thankful for that. This is going to be another thing that we have to figure out and adjust, man. And I
Right.
trust, if needed, I trust them to expand and adjust those documents to make sure that the public and ourselves are protected and everyone understands what their role is and what their responsibilities are.
Right.
And I'm pretty happy what we have right now. If there's something else that comes on the table that's going to make it
Yeah.
easier, then let's do
Yeah.
it. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, it just doesn't scare me. I don't know. Like it
Yeah.
was shocking, you know, and that shock probably came from, you know, some of the conversation, you know, some of the media that was put out there by the folks on, you know, the real estate world side of the lawsuit, you know. But at
Well,
this,
there was a
is what it is.
general or atmosphere or temperature nationally the last 4.5 years of, you know, almost like the whatever, this didn't go
Never
anywhere.
gonna die.
And then all of a sudden on October 31st, it was made very clear that this is serious, right? So I think, Andrew, granted, this has been going on for 4.5 years. I would say realistically, this calendar year, but probably the last 12 months, we've really tried to focus on it. And we've gone back to our NAR code of ethics. So during our power hours, we take one small chapter and just talk about it. And part of that is good refreshers throughout the year, but it spurs good conversation, right? And it spurs good learning about situational things, right? And this will be just that. You know, there's going to be some shifts here and there. There's probably going to be some direction. Something's probably going to happen that we're going to hear about in our annual update class as a story, right? But at the same time, in the words of Andrew Wolf, just do the right thing, man. Just do the right thing, man.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward to me. Maybe I'm
Right.
maybe I'm not looking at it as narrowly as I could or as granular as I should. But I mean, if we all understand, if ourselves as agents and our clients understand what the buyers and or sellers agency agreements say, and we all sign on the dotted line,
Right.
and it's not like it's pretty straightforward. It's not legalese. It's not some weird crafty document. It's pretty straight up, you know. So yeah, it's for us. It's should be honestly business as usual. But if you need to, you know, reach out to your leadership staff at your individual brokerages, or, you know, I mean, I'm happy to talk to anybody. And I know if you are a realtor, the car legal team is a great resource. Their hotline is awesome to understand, hey, what does this document mean? How do I explain it to my clients? How do I write it to where we both are protected and understand what the process looks like? You know,
Right.
And you should be able to do that. We all go to 168 hours of original classes. We all take our CE classes every single year.
Right.
You are required to take an animal commission update class every single year. You should
Right.
be able to articulate that to your clients, right?
Right.
It's a bare minimum quality of service thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's a good way to put it. So, so I guess, you know, in the days ahead, we'll probably still be talking about this, but like, I'm with you, Andrew. I think, we have such a great opportunity right now. And I think there's so much opportunity just in our market, you know, with our buyers and our sellers. And I think, you know, this will flush itself out. But, you know, if you're one of our agents, you know, call one of us, chat about it. If you got a transaction in the middle of, and, you know, if you're another realtor and you just want to talk it through, you know, we're happy to have a conversation. But Andrew's right. Your leadership can help you with that. And I think, you know, together we will just navigate this as realtors always do, to make things happen for their clients.
Yeah, again, and I know we poke fun and we all want, you know, our offices and our teams to be the top dog in Colorado and in Denver. But at the end of the day, our duty to the public is for us all to be informed, us all to play fair, and us all to do the right thing. And if we do that, guys, again, no one can touch you. You do the right thing all the time.
Right.
No one can touch you. I don't care what how cool the legal brief is written. If you follow the letter of the law, it is what it is, you know.
Right.
So until they change it, then follow, you know, that letter. Yeah. Again,
well, cool. Well, I tell you, it's kind of a heavy topic, so I'm glad we got through it. And We've got, again, thank you guys for listening, and you've got our annual pie event coming up. So those of you that are already on that list, you already know who you are. And on Saturday, you'll be getting pie, Saturday and Sunday. And
Yeah.
then the following weekend, we got Santa. So if there's an interest in having a picture taken with you or your dog or something with Santa, let us know. You can, whether it's on social media or YouTube, just let Andrew or I know, and we'll get you the details on that. And then obviously a wonderful Thanksgiving coming up, here, and which we're all really excited about too. So,
Right, should be a good thing, guys. So pie event those will be dropping this weekend or the next week. Whatever your agent negotiates with you, or negotiates, whatever agent schedules with you. And then yes, it is December 3rd, guys. So feel free to come on by, reach out to your winning agent, reach out to us, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody. But yeah, have a great Thanksgiving, and yeah, we'll talk to you guys again soon.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks.